While many South Africans have travelled home to enjoy the festive season with their loved ones, there are those who do not have a home to go back to. For them, the festive season is like any other season where they have to look for food in rubbish bins or wait for NGOs and soup kitchens to come to their rescue. We take a look at the issue of homelessness at this time, or any other time, in fact, because it's a daily issue. Dennis Hurley Centre's Raymond Perrier is standing by to talk to us about that. Thank you very much for your time, Raymond, this morning. So when we take a look at the issue of homelessness, it is very easy to not understand the impact of it because maybe you may not be exposed to it. But just how deep or bad is the problem of homelessness in South Africa?
Judy, it's quite hard to hear you, but I think you're asking me to comment on the situation of homelessness here in South Africa. It's really increased over the last few years because of COVID, and certainly in Durban, where I'm based, the impact of COVID and riots and floods, we reckon about 50% more people are living on the streets than were 3 years ago. And it's for a simple reason: there aren't enough jobs, and so people can't find work, and they end up living on the streets.
What is the perception that you have picked up from certain sectors of society about homeless people? What are people's most natural reaction when they see someone who's living on the streets?
Well, I have to say, certainly judging from Durban, I am really impressed at how empathetic so many people are. The temptation, of course, is to treat homeless people as if they were aliens or as if they were litter to be cleared away. But actually, certainly all the faith groups we work with, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Jews, really reach out and work with us and other organizations, with the Dennis Hurley Centre and other organizations in Durban to help the homeless. What is most shocking, though, is the complete indifference of government. Certainly at local level, eThekwini municipality, for example, almost completely ignore the problem and hope it will just go away. Whereas, in fact, it's clearly a responsibility of theirs and has a huge impact on perceptions of the city. So many tourists coming into Durban at the moment, and the failure to address homelessness in Durban has an impact on how people view our city.
Who are they? What is their story? Who are some of the people that you interact with? Why are they on the streets?
So the vast majority of homeless people in our cities are South African young men. So South Africans, not foreign nationals, and young men rather than women. And usually they've turned 18, they've moved from rural areas to the cities to look for work. They don't want to be a burden to their families. There aren't jobs in the rural areas or the small towns that they're from. So they come to the cities hoping that the streets will be paved with gold. But of course that's the very opposite of what they find. And so they end up on the streets. As a result of living rough, many are tempted into different forms of addiction, alcohol, dagga, and sometimes harder drugs. But very often it's homeless people who become drug users rather than drug users who become homeless.
What are the circumstances that they are faced with on the streets? What is a typical day like?
I think the typical day starts very early. They want to get up and out of wherever they've been staying overnight before the police or anyone else harasses them. And then often they're roaming around all day. They don't have anywhere where they can sit and just be safe and be unhassled. So one of the roles of the Dennis Hurley Centre in Durban and similar organizations like ours around the country is just to provide a safe, welcoming space where people can come. Like many organizations, we provide food. So we provide breakfast and lunch and a pack of sandwiches to take away. In fact, we will have served 162,000 meals in Durban this year, thanks to support from all the religious communities. Food is helpful, but actually it's a warm welcome. It's a place where you won't be judged, a place where people won't treat you like litter, won't treat you as if you're about to rob them or murder them. Because most homeless people just want to live their lives quietly, would love to get work, would love to get back into work. But I had a lovely story this morning. A volunteer came down to work at our kitchen yesterday. He's involved in one of the car businesses in Durban, and he called me this morning to tell me that there's a guy he got chatting to yesterday, and he wants to offer him a job in a local garage where he's involved. And there's just one example, obviously one drop in the ocean, but one life that can be transformed by offering somebody a job.
Mm-hmm. How many lives, or not even how many lives, but is there a story you can share with us about a life that has been transformed from the work that you do?
Absolutely. So there's a young man called Elijah who came to us recently. He had had a really bad experience with drugs, had lost contact with his family, had been living on the streets for many, many years, and he came to join our bookselling program. So our biggest success of helping people turn their lives around is setting them up as second-hand booksellers. The project's called Streetlit, and we have booksellers across Durban in malls, in the Botanic Gardens, at galleries, at theatres and so on, and all of those homeless guys are now making a living from selling books. Anyway, it was a great, first part of the transformation story is that this guy is now set up as one of our booksellers, but also thanks to a TV interview with another channel, I won't name them, but another channel interviewed him the other day, and somebody recognized him and was able to tell his mother that he was alive and well, and she phoned me up from Ladysmith and said, I was so pleased to see that my son is alive, I didn't even know if he was safe, and can you please put me in touch? And we've connected them, and he was able to reunite with his family over Christmas. So that's just such a glorious story, a really good ending for Elijah, because most homeless people, of course, do have homes, but for some reason they've been detached from their families and their homes, and they don't feel they can connect again.
What can me and Brapanki and Vusi and Sibati do? What can we do, right? So when you speak about the long term more so, we cannot afford to have more people who are living on the streets. It just simply is not attainable, because it's only a matter of time until it encroaches on the entire country and the situation gets even more out of hand. And so what can we do as South Africans to play our part? How can we help?
I think the first thing to do is not to judge people. Don't assume that somebody is homeless through some fault of their own or through some criminal activity. That's sometimes the case, but more often than not, it isn't. So don't judge people. I'm never sure whether you should give money to people who are begging, but it doesn't cost anything to wind down the window and greet somebody and ask them how their day is going. Just recognizing the humanity of somebody who's living on the streets is so important. And then in every town and city across the country, there are organizations like the Dennis Hurley Center working with homeless people, providing food, providing counseling, providing a safe place. So get involved in those organizations, even if it's just volunteering for one morning a month. That makes a difference, because there's a chance to get to know somebody and talk to them. And then anybody who is at all involved in business, in employment, talk to those organizations. Please get in touch with us and get in touch with the National Homeless Network through us at the Dennis Hurley Center. And if you've got ways of giving a second chance to people who are living on the streets, then please let us know. Because we know that 70% of the homeless people we work with would just love to get work so they can get off the streets and back into mainstream society.
Raymond Perrier is the director of the Dennis Hurley Center. Thank you very much for your contribution to humanity.